We are all aware of the threat to our voting rights. If this stirs your passion and you want to be active, this is for you. Today, I'm introducing you to James Brown. James has been a longtime volunteer with Voters Not Politicians, and primarily now he's supporting Promote the Vote. This is a petition to protect our right to vote. We're going to touch on why it is imperative that this petition actually gets on the ballot and becomes part of the Constitution. James, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
What strikes you as most important about protecting our right to vote? In your view, what are we going to be doing to prevent long lines and make it easier to vote?
One of the things about preventing long lines is to have a longer period of time where people can vote. And with Promote the Vote 2022, we'll have 9 days of in-person early voting, which will help to ensure shorter lines and have more people in a lifestyle perspective have the time to vote.
Let me ask you about what I hear intimidation mentioned. What does intimidation mean to you? Is that something that happens in the voting line?
Well, I think there's two perspectives when we refer to voter intimidation. As a poll worker, it is having poll challengers come in that are specifically from a specific party and say, I want to see what you're doing. I want to know what you're doing, and having your sanctity of your personal space violated. And as a voter, when you pull up to the polling place, you have the right to be safe and secure and not have slurs and not have things tossed upon your body in terms of, here, take this piece of paper. And I think that is another violation of personal space. We want to ensure that people's personal space and safety are paramount, and they're not scared to have to feel like they have to be scared to go in and vote.
We've all seen voting being challenged and recounts. The people that go in to recount votes, how would that be impacted by this ballot initiative?
That's a good question, Karl. One of the things that will happen is that the people responsible for elections will be able to audit and also be responsible for counting the vote without any intimidation on their behalf. There won't be any companies that just come out of the ethers and say, we're going to count your votes, we're going to take your machines, we're going to take your ballots. The people that are responsible for holding the elections will be the people responsible for counting the votes, making sure that those votes are safe and secure.
Can you speak to in early voting, 9 days of early voting? Because I see that as a great possibility to make this whole process easier.
Yes, 9 days of early voting to be able to have people come in from certain hours to certain hours, from an AM to PM perspective, as opposed to just a PM perspective, gives people a chance to get off work, go vote, and do what they need to do in order to not have to stand in line all day. So it will shorten the lines because there'll be a longer period of voting.
I've heard talk that military service men and women are afraid their ballots won't be counted.
Yes, as a veteran myself, I feel it is important, and being in several veterans organizations, that is a big concern by our veterans, to make sure that they have enough time to have their ballot turned in and counted after election day. I believe it's 6 days, and that is a very good point, Karl. I appreciate that. That will help our veterans to feel that their vote is counted.
Another area I'd like to look at is keeping our polling sites open. I've heard talk that funding is being threatened to have polling sites open. Schools and churches could be closed down.
Certain other ballot initiatives come into play. What will happen is those places have to be, the funding to schools and churches or other places, even community centers where polling has taken place traditionally, will have to be funded by the state. And the state would say, well, we're not going to be able to fund all those. So you might have one place in a municipality where people can go and vote. With this particular ballot initiative, it will be the way it is. People will be able to accept in-kind donations. People will be able to have their polling places in their communities where they live, which is statistically where most people vote, safe and secure in terms of the ability to have those places open.
Another question I hear quite often is about absentee ballots, and that there's confusion about how to get them and how they are the process and how do they get filed.
That is a awesome question. And one of the things about absentee ballots is with this ballot proposal, with this initiative, people will be able to be on a permanent absentee ballot list. As long as they live in that residence, they will get an absentee ballot. If they move, all they have to do is indicate that they move, and they don't have to turn in another absentee ballot. And the other really great thing about this ballot initiative is that you will be able to have a ballot with a stamp on it, and you don't have to purchase your own stamp, and also ballot tracking. A person will know from the time they turn that ballot in to the time election day comes that they know where their ballot is, thus having further security for their ballot.
James, I really appreciate your time today. How can I support this initiative? Where can I find more information?
On Sundays, there'll be a table person, so people will be able to ask questions, sign a ballot, volunteer. So you'll have one-stop shopping to get your questions answered, to get your petition signed, which we desperately really need you to do is sign a petition, and also volunteer.
I'd love to see you on Sundays. Please come on by the table, and we can not only have petitions for you to sign, we can discuss what it means to be a microcirculator with your friends and families. Avoid the long lines of a meeting and be a microcirculator.
We really appreciate Renaissance Unity and all of the Renaissance Unity community. To learn more about the ballot initiative, look for Karl Dorn or go to renaissanceunity.org.